Alright, hey guys, and welcome back to another video. First of all, thank you so much for all the support lately on my recent uploads, especially on the PS3 Price Insanity video. The reception on that has been just overwhelmingly positive, and it's been really giving me a lot of motivation and inspiration to continue making videos here. So I hope you've been enjoying the uploads. And it also got me brainstorming new ideas for new series of videos. So I came up with the idea of this new series that I'm going to be calling Price Check, which essentially kind of plays into, I would say, my expertise, or at least what I would consider to be quite knowledgeable on, because I do this at least once a week. You know, I spend many hours a week on my streams looking through eBay, seeing price trends. I have a lot of experience kind of predicting where prices go. And over time, you know, I've done streams where I will predict where a game's price will be a year out from where we are, and my accuracy on that tends to be somewhere between 60 and 70% in accurately predicting the prices of games in the future. So I figured, why not do a series where I put my knowledge to use and make YouTube videos kind of giving people some insight on a little bit of a deep, not too deep, like a shallow dive into the price history, what the current price is of a game, where I see it going in the future. Will it go up? Will it go down? Will it stay the same? Why is that? And we'll kind of go into a little bit of, you know, where I see the price going for a game in the future. I will say this video is not meant to, by any means, it is not meant to drive prices up. I just have a lot of fun sort of talking about the prices of games, trying to pick out games that people could buy now and probably save a lot of bit of money, whereas if they waited too long, it might be too expensive. So that's the whole point of this series. I'm going to probably pick out a handful of games. I think to start, we're going to do about 5 games per price check video. And I'm also going to allow people like you to pick out games for me to talk about in these videos, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what do you say we jump in? I don't want this video to be overly long. Let's jump into the first game. And by the way, if you like the idea of this video, leaving me a like would be a way for me to know that you enjoy this series, and you know, maybe we'll see more of these in the future, but that is the plan. I would love to do more of these because this is a lot of fun for me. So let's start with a game. Oh, and by the way, all the games that I'm going to talk about, I will list them in the description. So if you want to see what games I'm going to be talking about and in what order, they will be listed there. Let's start with Sonic the Hedgehog, also known as Sonic 06, also known by a lot of people as the worst Sonic game ever. So this one has been interesting. So I figured what we'd do is we'll start in price charting. We'll see the price trends over the past. Then we'll dive into eBay. We'll kind of see what's available, what the current selling prices are, and then we'll go from there about where I think the game is going to go in the future. So Sonic 06 has pretty much remained steady at about $10 to $15 for a very long time, and that sounds about right. Like, nobody wanted this game. It was always trash talked. It was always looked down upon. People just didn't care about Sonic 06. However, you know, there are multiple ways and reasons why this game would go up, as we see here around the beginning of 2020. Obviously, we're going to see a lot of price increase around this time because of the pandemic. Stimulus checks, yes, that definitely plays a part in this. However, we do need to factor in other elements, such as the fact that this game used to be listed on the Xbox Marketplace, and it no longer is. It was pulled by Sega because they essentially want to wipe history of this game. They were like, we got to pull this for quality control, when they did a little bit of a cleanup to remove games that, you know, they didn't want on there. And this one was apparently because it didn't meet their standards. And it's not backwards compatible, probably never will be. So this game is doomed to be on the 360. Now, yes, there is a PlayStation 3 version, but we are specifically focusing on the Xbox version because it does have a better performance. The loads are a little better, as abysmal as they are. But this is the version that you're probably going to want as opposed to the PlayStation 3 version. And as you can see here now, for the past year or more, it's starting to get a little higher. Now, some of these prices, I have seen it go higher than these $20, $25 prices. So let's jump into eBay here, right? This is what's available right now. 28 copies available, and it should be noted that the Platinum Hits versions of this game can actually reach the same price, if not more, than the regular version of it. And you can see there's a lot of people. I mean, look at these asking prices, right? This is a tell. So here's the thing. You might look at these prices and say, well, it's not selling for $50, $55, right? But when the copies that are around the current market value ever dry up, then people are going to have to start looking at these more expensive copies. So somebody might buy this $30 copy, $33 with shipping. And then once that dries up, people might start moving into the $40, $50 ones that are on here. There's not a whole lot of these available, right? If you're looking through here, and you don't always just want to look at the sold prices of games. You also want to look at what is available, because that can be very telling for what is to come in the future. And if we look here, as you can see, it's a lot of platinum hits. The regular version of this game is really, really scarce. Okay, this is very important. This is a general eBay tip that I would have for people that are kind of on the lookout. You look through this, look at that. There was only what, two $30-ish copies of this game. The other ones are asking 50 or more. So now let's go into the sold listings and let's see what people are actually paying for this as of recently. So these all ended recently. So I do include shipping into these prices. I think that is very important to include shipping because, well, people that have free shipping, that's a factor of the price, right? So the shipping cost should be factored into the price. So you can see here, people are getting desperate. Okay, this is very telling and also very important. Notice what copies are selling. The Platinum Hits versions. Normally that's a last-ditch effort for a lot of collectors. They don't want the Platinum Hits versions. They want the original versions. So the fact that affordable, regular versions of Sonic 06 are really not available for a decent price. People are buying Platinum Hits. And eventually that's going to make people break into having to spend a bit more money for the normal version. So we see here, normal version for $28, $25. I have seen copies of this actually sell for as much as $35, and I think the most expensive one I've seen for the normal was $40 like a month ago when the prices were really starting to spike for this. So as you can see, normal copies and Platinum Hits are around the same price, and this is usually not the case with games. So why are people after Sonic 06 again? Well, like I said, it goes out to multiple different collectors. It goes out to Sonic collectors, and Sonic collectors are used to pain and suffering, right? Not all the Sonic games are amazing, so they're okay with investing into a game that they know may not be the greatest, but they see the price, kind of going up, and they're curious. Maybe they tried playing this game when it came out, they rented it, it was terrible. Maybe a lot of the videos that are put out for this game have kind of given them a good laugh, and they want to experience for themselves and see how bad it is. My personal take on Sonic 06, it's a pretty bad single, like a casual first playthrough. It's pretty bad. In a speedrun setting or a second playthrough where you're like maybe looking up glitches and how to do the glitches in this game and like warping across the maps, getting out of bounds, that stuff is really fun. It's really fun to kind of bust this game open and play it for the broken mess that it is. But that's just my kind of personal take. This also is for Xbox 360 collectors because this is essentially stuck in the console place, right? So not including the PlayStation 3, people that are collecting exclusive 360 games or 360 games that are just simply not available anywhere else but physically, this is kind of their market here. So where do I see the price of this going? Do I continue to see Sonic 06 go up? I absolutely do. Sonic is such a strong name brand, and I really fully believe that unless Sega just is on some kind of crazy marketing or like money attempt at releasing old games or something, I really don't ever see them re-releasing this game in any fashion. They're trying to wipe it from their history. Even though their Twitter account makes fun of it a lot, I see this game absolutely continuing to climb up in price. Where do I see it in about a year's time? I can easily see this game starting to go for the $35 to $40 range consistently in about a year. I can see it eventually, a couple years out from now, I can see this starting to top out at around maybe 60 once the 360 boom happens. I still think 360 games have not quite hit their peak in prices and people focusing on collecting for it. So this is one to keep your eye on. Still relatively affordable if you keep your eyes open. All right, so I wanted to try and mix it up. We're going to do a couple different games for different consoles. So, generally every game I'm going to talk about, I'm going to try and make it for a different company or platform or something. So let's jump into a Wii game next. Let's talk about Fragile Dreams Farewell Runes of the Moon for the Wii. Now look at this spike here. Isn't that something? So there's a lot of different factors going on with this game. Back in 2013, this was a game nobody talked about because, well, let's face it, nobody heard about it. So if you look back here, it used to be as cheap as 2016, it started climbing to around the $40 range, which it sat at for a very, very long time, multiple years. It was sort of a pretty much straight line here. And then once again, 2020, the year of price increase, this has started going up. But this is something to be concerned about because the thing about Fragile Dreams is this game falls into multiple genres. This is a horror game through and through. I mean, it may not appear from its anime look, but this is a horror game. It has survival horror elements. It has, limited items. It has really dark, moody settings with the flashlight mechanic, and it's got some really creepy stuff in this game. This is definitely a horror game disguised as a almost cutesy anime aesthetic. It has a really depressing story, touching characters. It's just a very well told game in terms of atmosphere, setting, and story. It is 100% Wii exclusive as well. So this means that if people want to play this game or they find out about it for the first time, they have to get the Wii version. There's no alternatives. It's not available in any other fashion. So, according to price charting, this game is currently going for around $90. But here is the thing. If we look on eBay, and the more general that you make your searches, the better, by the way. You don't want to search for Fragile Dreams, Feral Runes to the Moon. You don't want to do the full title, because if somebody just calls this Fragile Dreams on the Wii, you're not going to get the result if you're doing the full subtitle. So try and keep it as general as you can. So if you look here, now this is very telling. There are pretty much no copies of this game available. And once again, I should say we are only looking really at US prices, so I do apologize. But if you look on eBay, the only copies that are available are 120, 120, 150 bidding for a sealed copy. So this game is about to spike and probably go crazy. The copies that are available, at least on eBay, but it's a good standard to go by, they have dried up. They're completely gone. So let's check the selling. So this means if somebody, where money may not be too much of an issue to them, becomes interested in buying this game and they don't want to wait for an affordable copy to pop up, they're going to buy one of those $120 copies. And that is going to cause the price of this game to go from $80, $90 to $120 because there's just nothing available. So if we look through here, latest selling prices are in that $90+ range, $15 shipping actually. Somebody got so desperate, looks like somebody from the US may have bought a copy from Singapore. $50 just for the disc, and this is pretty recently. And as you see with the dates, they are quite spaced out, okay? This just shows you how barren of a wasteland the availability of this game is. So sealed copy, $117, very cheap price for a sealed copy considering that, well, look at this, an open copy. One for $110. So the price of this game is already topping $100 or more for a used copy. And it's only going to continue to go up, right? So this is something to keep your eyes out for, considering it is part of the horror genre. It's a very well-received game. It's a Wii exclusive. I also believe that the Wii has not completely hit its full stride in terms of people collecting for it. People are starting to catch on to what some of the good exclusives are, but I don't think the Wii has fully hit the peak. Now, I think I'm actually going to refrain saying what the actual price of Fragile Dreams that I think it will end up at, because it's not going to be pretty, and I don't want to, have an influence over that. But all I will say is, based on what I've seen with other horror games, especially ones that are exclusive, this game is, pardon the pun, it's going to go to the moon. Okay? It is going to go to the moon. So if you are interested in this game, I would highly recommend keeping your eyes peeled. Keep your eyes peeled on other markets as well. Amazon, Mercari, local trades, whatever have you. It doesn't have to be eBay. Keep your eyes peeled on this, because trust me, in a year or two from now, you might be regretting it. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next game. Let's talk about Contact. Let's talk about a handheld game. So Contact is an interesting one for, once again, multiple reasons. I tried to pick some games for the first episode of this that sort of hit a lot of different points about, what kind of plays into the price of a game. So Contact is a game that I picked up not too long after it came out from GameStop. I think I paid like $10 for this game. Nobody wanted Contact back then. Nobody knew what Contact was. As we can see here, for a very, very long time, this game is kind of maintained back in the day, it was about 10 to 15, but it has maintained this sort of $25, $30 price range for a very, very long time. Once again, huge spike in price for 2020. Now, something to keep in mind. Some people might say, well, isn't this price going to burst? Isn't it going to come back down? For certain genres, prices will come down. Games that are actually not too rare, pretty common, it will come down. But for a game like Contact, which is published by Atlas, and there's another point about this that I'm going to get into that plays into this, this game is not going to come down. The copies are scarce enough to the point where there's going to be enough demand and not a ton of copies to go around for it. So something like this is going to suffer the unfortunate consequence of the price spike keeping it high. It's really not going to come back down. So let's talk about some of the points about Contact that kind of make it an interesting game to begin with. Not only is it published by Atlas, and we all know that the Atlas name on a game alone can drive the price of a game up because there's a lot of Atlas collectors. There's a lot of people that trust the Atlas name brand, and well, it's just an unfortunate side effect of collecting Atlas games. The name itself on the cover, even if it's just published by them, increases the price. However, this game is also developed by a very notable game developer, and if you see here on the Wikipedia page, Grasshopper Manufacturer is the developer. And in case you forget what games they've developed, here's just a taste. Notorious for games like, I would love to say Michigan, because that's one of my favorite games. I love Michigan Report from Hell, but not a lot of people are aware of that one. Games like Killer 7, here's Contact, of course, the No More Heroes series. Let's see, Killer is Dead, Let It Die, lesser known one, but very, very well known, obviously, for the No More Heroes series, kind of a cult series, and also a cult developer. You know, they have some really good ones in here too that are very well regarded by a lot of people and getting very expensive, right? Flower, Sun, and Rain. This is a game I have not played, but if you've been looking at the prices of this game, it's getting kind of crazy. A lot of the games by this developer, Samurai Champloo, getting very pricey. No More Hero games are kind of fluctuating because of the re-releases and whatnot, what have you. But games from this developer, Shadows of the Damned, scrolled right by that one. That's another very notable game that people really love. So, Lollipop Chainsaw. People love this developer, and they may actually start collecting specifically for Grasshopper Manufacturer games. They may want the full library. So there's going to be a ton of people looking for this, and it is an RPG. This is an action, like semi-turn-based RPG. It's sort of like this weird blend of almost like an MMO style of combat. But the game is also notable for being constantly compared to Earthbound. This game sort of has an aesthetic with character sprites and whatnot, and sort of just a general setting that a lot of people are like, oh, that's a very Earthbound looking game. Maybe only about 10% of the game kind of reminds me of Earthbound personally, but it does draw that comparison a lot. It's got some really quirky music that is very unique sounding, and it's got some great graphics, great atmosphere, just a very different feeling game. There's nothing else quite like it on the DS, let alone home consoles in general, so it's a pretty unique game. So let's take a look at the landscape of Contact on eBay right now. So according to price charting, this game is currently going for about $55 to $60. So let's see if that holds true. We currently have a lot of people asking a bit more than that for complete copies, upwards of 90, incomplete copies for around 50, but a lot of people are starting to ask 90 plus or more, and there are not a lot of copies on here. This is another instance of a game where when people get desperate and they have to have their game complete, it looks like they're looking at a minimum of $90, which according to price charting, which can be behind the times a little bit, is about $30 more than the current market price. So let's take a look at what people are actually buying this for and see if there's anything we can notice in the trends. Okay, so somebody got one without the manual for $40. That seems pretty good to me. Bidding 71. Bids are always way more important to look at than buy it now, right? Buy it now can be an impulse purchase, whereas bidding is way more telling because that tells you that this is something that multiple people have contributed towards what they would consider to be the current market price for the game, right? Pretty self-explanatory. So $71 is way more telling than somebody, say, getting this game for $40, right? You might be like, oh, $40, no manual. That's pretty cheap. But the thing is, somebody could have listed this way underpriced and this got scooped up within 30 seconds. It's not a true indicator of the market price when a game is semi-underpriced by somebody that may not be aware of what they have. So keep that in mind. So currently this is telling us that apparently a manual is about $30 of the price of this game. Here's another person that got it for $35 without the manual. This is bidding. So this is some very interesting price fluctuation here. This one here is $40. They're not showing the cover. We're not going to click into everything here. This one is $56, seemingly complete, which is around the market price that price charting is telling us, right? But here's one that's sold for $90. Carts are selling for around $20 to $30, it seems. Here's one for $90 with shipping. So this is very, very interesting price fluctuation, right? This game can sell anywhere between $50 complete and $90 complete currently. So in this instance where prices for a complete copy are in such a disparity with one another, I mean, look at this person. They spent $100, and sometimes all it takes is just a couple of sales that sell for this price to completely influence all the other future listings. Because if somebody sees, well, that person got $90, $100 for Contact, why can't I get $90, $100 for Contact? And it just kind of snowballs from there. Let's look one more time at what was available for Contact, just to kind of give you an idea. So if we have people that are paying, oh, eBay and your cumbersome checkboxes that are all the way on the bottom left of your screen. People that want a complete copy seem like they're going to be forced to spend around $75, which is in the upper echelon of prices for this game currently. So, in my opinion, Contact will go up. DS prices are going a bit insane right now. This game kind of has all the makings for being a bit more expensive than what it already is, considering the points that I've already discussed with Atlas, the genre, the semi-limited available nature of this game, and it's sort of gaining cult status with a lot of people as well. Oh, and of course, the developer. So, where do I see this game in a year? I can easily see this game consistently selling for over $100 in a year, somewhere between the price range of $100 and $150. It seems to be heading in that direction based on availability. The unfortunate thing is, if you're looking to get a copy at the moment, it's not going to be too easy to seemingly get one for the $50-ish range. So that's my take on Contact on the DS. So now we're going to move into, I have a Patreon set up where people that pledge at certain thresholds can actually pick games for me to talk about in these videos. I do want to note, however, that this doesn't mean that you are completely free to come to my streams. And next we're going to be talking about Eco. You are completely free to come to my streams and ask me where you think the price of a game is going to go. I have absolutely no problem answering those for you. But if you ever felt like seeing it featured in a video episode of Price Check and want to see me kind of do a bit of a more critical analysis and more of a shallow dive, as we'll call it, into where I see the price going, just for the fun of it, that is an option for people that want to do that. But like I said, feel free. You don't have to pledge on Patreon to get my opinion on where the price of a game is going. We do that all the time on my eBay streams every week, so just wanted to clarify. So this actually comes as a request from a good friend of mine on Twitch, Blinkoom, a fellow Blinkoom Iku, a fellow Eco fan, big Eco fan. We both speedran this game, actually. So he thought it would be really interesting to see me dive into my favorite game of all time, and I know he loves this game just as much as I do. So Eco, wow, what an interesting one to talk about here. For those of you that were not aware, this game is still my favorite game of all time. It has been ever since it came out. Let me just grab a drink of water here. Getting thirsty for that Eco. Eco, I never thought I'd see the day where I see this game going for $25+. This game has been so cheap. This game used to be so cheap that I used to buy extra copies that I saw and hand it out to like some of my friends in high school to be like, hey, play this game, it's so amazing. And yeah, most of them didn't care for the game. But I used to buy copies of this game just to have others experience, because they were pretty cheap and they were very plentiful. So to see Eco go from being a $10 to $15 game to actually having a price increase, this is very unusual. I never thought I'd see this day, to be quite honest with you. So something that we need to touch upon that is very important about Eco, that not a lot of people actually know about. The US version of Eco is actually the original version of Eco. The PAL version and eventually what would become the PS3 port, which we're also going to be talking about, those are actually updated versions of the game. So the US version was the original version, not fully complete, believe it or not. So there's a lot of differences between the US version and the PAL version, and also between the US version and the PS3 version, whatever region you decide to play of the PS3 version. The US version is distinct in that it has changes that, or not changes, but original features that were either never added or that had additions in future releases or changes in future releases. So examples include the shadows are way more aggressive. The combat takes longer because they have more hit points in the US version. The little spider shadows can actually attack you in this version. There are missing puzzles in this version that are present in the future PAL versions that are not in this one. There's little changes to the actual environment and how the puzzles are actually approached in this version. Lots of subtle changes. There's also none of the extra content in this one, like you can't do a second playthrough with the text translated. There's no lightsabers. Essentially, this is the bare bones original release of Eco that, believe it or not, if you find the combat in Eco to be pretty poor, this is the worst version that you can play, and I highly recommend the PS3 version. So that is important to know, because this can factor into this game not getting too high in price because it is not seen as the definitive version in my eyes, but it can also at the same time factor into the price because, well, it is a unique version of Eco in its history. So people that have only ever played the PAL version or the PS3 version might be really curious to see what all the hubbub is about the US version and why it's the hardest version of the game, and seeing the changes firsthand. So if you're a hardcore fan of Eco, this might be an interesting version for you to check out if you haven't actually played this version. So Eco, let's check eBay. I think it's important for us to see what is available. So here's the thing about Eco, right? Tons of copies available, and this has always been the case. There are lots and lots and lots of copies of Eco sitting unsold. This game has never been rare. I'd actually kind of place it on the common to lightly uncommon realm. Once again, we are strictly talking about the US version here. So there's already availability for this game, and I think the fact that the PS3 version exists will keep the price on the US version down, because in a lot of people's eyes, they only want to play the best looking version of the game. They don't want to be bothered with going back in time and playing it as it was originally released. So the factors playing into why I think Eco will sort of stabilize around this price or not go up too much. PlayStation 3 release is available. It's the definitive version. It looks way better than the PS2 version. There are plenty copies of this game available. And, well, to be honest, I mean, for a lot of people to visit Eco now, it's kind of hard for a lot of people to get into. So it's sort of got that cult status for people that originally played it back in the day. I think a lot of people jump into this now, and it may not be what they expect. As amazing of a game as I think this is, I completely respect when people can't get into it. So let's look into sold prices. Oops, sorry, that is for the PS3 version, which we will get into. Where is sold? Here it is. Okay, so game used to be about 10 to 15 for the longest time, and now people are consistently paying about $20 to $30, and in some instances, as we're seeing, some people actually pay a little bit more. So I think this is mostly just because people were starting to panic buy certain games on the PS2. A lot of these purchases, I feel, are people that either rented this game back in the day or wanted to give it another chance. Because, I mean, honestly, I think a lot of Eco fans never let go of their copy, or they have the PS3 version. Maybe they did get rid of their PS2 version and they're looking to reacquire it. So I think a lot of these purchases are people that are looking to try this game for the first time. But honestly, it seems to be peaking out at about $35. I think that's pretty high for Eco. I know that might surprise people. I think that's pretty high for Eco. I honestly either see this game stabilizing at around the price that it's currently going for, so like no more than 30 to 35 a year out from now, because I do think there's just too many available. However, if I am wrong, where do I think it has the potential to end up at? The highest I could potentially see Eco going for, if it ever really kept, keeping this momentum, is maybe $50. The game is just too common to really go too much higher than that, and especially because the PS3 version exists. But like I said, I think the price on Eco is pretty much going to stay as it is and not have too much of an increase. Maybe it'll start hitting $40 by the end of this year, but man, that seems a little hard to believe for me. So now we look at Eco on PlayStation 3, another game where it comes with Shadow of the Colossus. There are so many of these available. 178 copies of this. This is like, there is absolutely no way that this game goes up much more than it's already at. I mean, this game has already kind of always been in that $10 to $15 range. During the PlayStation Apocalypse, as I like to call it, it sort of reached that $25 range in sales. But if you look here, I mean, there's just too many available. It would take some crazy kind of market manipulation to get this game to go anywhere higher. However, I should state, if a new, which is coming, if a new Team Eco game comes out and there's a lot of hype behind it and it starts gaining a lot of traction, that actually will drive up the price of all versions of Eco Shadow of the Colossus Last Guardian, because people that kind of want to revisit the back catalog, if the game gains enough notoriety, they will go back and want to play those. But if it remains sort of under the radar, a release just for the fans of Team Eco, then don't expect to see much of an increase in anything. Why somebody would be paying $21+ when there's obviously copies that are available for much less, kind of beyond me. But as you can see, a lot of people lately have been paying about $15 to $20. This person here, for some reason, decided to pay $30. But I don't think you have to worry about this. Do not panic by this game. It's always going to be readily available without a problem. I think out of the 3 Team Eco games, Eco, Shadow of the Colossus, and The Last Guardian, I think the one that you'd need to look out for the most is the US PS2 version. However, it should be noted that the special limited editions for the PAL versions that come in those really sleek cardboard boxes, I think those are already pretty pricey, and I can see those continuing to climb over the years, but these videos are focused on US releases, but very important to keep track of those slipcase covers with the postcards for the PAL region. So thank you, Blinkoom, for choosing this one. This was a very interesting one to pick, especially for my background with this game. All right, next we are going to move into a request from MechaKong, another good friend of mine over on Twitch. MechaKong wanted to hear me talk about The Godfather, specifically Don's edition for the PlayStation 3. Now, this is notable for a lot of reasons that we're going to go into. First of all, we all know what happened with the PlayStation 3 recently, right? I covered a whole video on that, so if you haven't seen that, I'm going to include a link to that, or it'll pop up at the end of this video. So, PS3 definitely has a bearing on this price. If we look at the price history now, this is pretty important, right? A lot of the games that we've looked at in this video sort of had a history where they were quite cheap, $10, $15, $20 tops, whereas this Godfather game has sort of steadily had a $30 price range for all this time, right? It wasn't dirt cheap. So this game has commanded a semi-mid-range price for the life of its time being sold on the internet, at least for the history that we have. And that's an important factor that I'll get into. Also, once again, a price spike for the pandemic. And it's only climbing, okay? So why is it important that this game, in terms of figuring out the future of this price, why is it important to know that it wasn't dirt cheap in the past? That is because people were willing to pay a semi-premium, right? Let's be real here. $30 for a used PS3 game back in 2013 is very expensive. Back then, you can get PS3 games dirt cheap, so there's always been this demand for this version of the game. It's not like a sudden thing, right, where it was cheap and now it's very expensive and there's a lot more likelihood for it to drop down. That is not the case. Let's look on this page. So, specifically the Don's edition, and this is why MechaKong was very interested in this. This is a version that includes a lot of exclusive changes, and I'm not going to go through all of them here because there's quite a bit. Now, I will say that I have not played this game. I've actually not played any Godfather game, but I hope that sort of my insight into some of these things may still be helpful here. So it says, the Don's Edition is a version of the Godfather game only available for the PlayStation 3. So while this game is not an exclusive, this version is exclusive to the PS3. Includes several differences, including all the changes made in the Godfather Backhand Edition, which is a game that was on the PS3 as well as exclusive content. So if you're a Godfather fan, I think it's pretty obvious, right, which version of the game you're going to want. Look at all of this extra stuff you can do in this game. There's new missions, there's new weapons, there's all kinds of improvements, quality of life improvements. They do stuff as little as like changing the weather so it can rain in the game. More dialogue. I mean, this is some pretty significant changes done to this, right? So let's say that you're looking to play this game and you're looking into, you know, which version you want to get of The Godfather. I think it's pretty clear. And I think people that are buying the Godfather game are fans of The Godfather in general, the films, right? So I think they're going to be pretty hardcore into it, and they're going to want the best version that they can get. Now, let's look at what this game is currently going for in asking price. People are asking minimum seemingly of, with shipping, $80 it seems to be. However, there's not a lot available for around that price. It's getting very dry in availability. So here's an important question as well. Money is an issue for this, right? I mean, this is not cheap. The one thing that I think will prevent this game from ever getting extremely expensive is the fact that some people will be like, listen, the price that the Don's Edition is going for is just not worth it for what's included. I'm okay with just playing the base version or the Blackhand Edition and paying a bit, you know, or in many cases probably a lot less, and that will kind of even out the Don's Edition. There's also going to be people that are just straight up not aware that this version even exists because it doesn't seem to be that common. So I think between those two dualities, between people not knowing this version exists and they just search for The Godfather on PS3 because they remember playing it a decade ago, they're like, oh, there it is, $20, let's pick it up, but they pick up one of the older versions, not being aware of the Don's Edition. I think that will keep the demand and price for this game down. But I also think that just the fact that money will send some people to the cheaper versions. So if this was the only Godfather game, the price would be way more. But there's so many different versions available on different consoles, different versions on the PS3. But let's take a look. We're not done yet until we see what people are actually paying for this game. Minimum asking price currently is $80, and according to price charting, market price should be around $67. So let's see. Complete at $68 with shipping. eBay tells us it's trending at $63. Somebody bought one for $83, $55. So you can actually still get this game in the lower market price that price charting is showing. As low as $55 seems, but the current selling price for this is around the $60 price range. Now, this is very important to note, right? We passed by that copy that sold. Where is it? For $83. Okay, so this is somebody that very recently, I'm making this video on the 15th, and this sold on the 13th. So this is probably a case of somebody that got desperate, really wants this version, noticed that the cheapest copies that are available were $80, and they paid $80. Now, this is going to drastically affect the future selling prices of this, right? Because if anybody is going to sell The Godfather, and if they're smart enough to look at sold listings, they're going to notice that one did sell for $83, and not too long ago, it seems, we're going to keep scrolling down, other copies did sell for around this price. And if they see the asking prices of what other people are asking right now, there's not a lot of people that are asking that $50, $55 range. And if you look back at the history, it is very obvious that people are willing to pay with bidding $90, $75, $100 with the sequel, but we won't count that, $80. So this game is trending higher than the current price charting market. But the most important question is, where do I see this game going? Do I see it coming down? Do I see it stabilizing? Do I see it going up? This is a hard one. There's a lot of factors in this one, and I also don't have the personal experience of having played this to really know, is this version worth it? In my opinion, this game will probably stabilize around the price that it is currently at. I don't see this going for much more than the $80, $90 price range because of the things that I discussed, the general unawareness that this exists. However, if there were something to occur where more attention was drawn to the Godfather games, specifically the PlayStation 3 Don's Edition version, the game would probably get very high in price. Maybe a new Godfather game comes out, people start looking at the back catalog, they do their research, somebody does a very informational video about the history of these games, and they mention how, you know, robust the Don's Edition is. Something like that would cause this game to get higher. But if nothing like that ever happens, I kind of foresee this game stabilizing within the course of a year for around the prices that it's currently going for. So somewhere between the range of $65 on the low end and like maybe $90 on the higher end. The one concerning thing for me is, as we scroll back up and get the non-sold listings, it's just the general availability is not the best, right? I mean, let's just see. The cheapest complete copy of this seems to be, what was it, $80. So there's really not a lot of these available right now. So I don't know. This is a very tough one for me, and I think it was a really good pick by MechaKong because there's so many different factors going into this game. Yeah, this is very interesting. Taking a second look at this. I would just say if you plan on getting this game, be very cautious. It seems like it's going to be a little competitive to get this game cheaply. I'd say it's better to be safe than sorry if you can afford, you know, hey, this game, if you're going to buy this, it's essentially the price of a PS5 game at this point, right? So if you could think of it that way, maybe it would lessen the burn a little bit having to pay potentially $70+ for this game on the PlayStation 3. Yeah, this is one to keep an eye on. This can go anywhere. This is a very hard one to pin down. And just thanks again to MechaKong for picking this one. It really got my brain going on future price for this. But I don't want this video to go on too long. It's already been going on very long. But anyway, that's going to do it. We took a look at 5 different games. Once again, thanks to people that picked these out on my Patreon, Blink and Mecha. It was a lot of fun kind of delving into games that I didn't immediately, you know, kind of come to mind. And I'll have a link to my Patreon as well in the video description. So if any of you are interested in having me pick a game to have featured in a future price checking video, just let me know. And like I said, if you want to see more of this series and want to see me continue it, you know, I just want to get a general gauge of what people are kind of thinking about this. So if you like this kind of video, a like is probably the easiest way to let me know. Swing by my Twitch stream, let me know there, or of course a comment. But that's going to do it for me for the first episode of Price Check. Thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you all in another video soon. Have a good one.